Folks, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in again, and I'm just going to dive right into this. I'll connect a little bit further and sort of catch everybody up on what's been going on in life and what's going on in your lives and things like that as well too later on, but for now, we're diving into this. What do you do in the next stage after you've axed it out? It meaning spoon blank. You've gone ahead and you've axed out your spoon blank. It's typically going to look something like this. This one has been sitting around a little bit. Well, it hasn't actually, it's only been a day or two, but I was messing around with it last night. So it would be a little bit more boxy in 3D, but I was already starting to shape the back of the bowl here. So here we go. What do you do? Well, typically the first thing I'm going to do right after I axe this out is I'm going to actually establish the edge. So this wasn't like this. I've already gone ahead and done it. It looks a little bit more tighter. You know what I mean? You want to actually try to make the 3D, or sorry, the bird's eye, the way you're looking down on it, a little bit tighter. Just kind of shape the bowl itself. I don't want to do much more, but here's a falsatori knife that I've recently got. And yeah, so example, maybe I could do a little bit tighter over here kind of thing. So I'm just going to take a little bit off, follow up to the bowl, and maybe even do cross grain cuts there just to get the back off a little bit. And again, what you're trying to do is just go ahead and establish the bird's eye view of the bowl to make it look like what the spoon's supposed to look like. Okay, now the rest of it. So once you've done that, I usually try to attack the bowl next. You can establish the rest of this and start to go ahead and carve the handle and everything, but getting the bowl sort of positioned where you want it gives you a little bit more room for the remainder of the spoon. You can do the rest of the work with a bowl being established as well too, whereas later on if you start to go ahead and sort of carve the handle down, you're reducing a lot of the wood and the strength, and then when you go to actually start carving the bowl itself, you're putting a lot of stress on maybe potentially a thinner neck if that's how you design it, or the weaker points or the less points of the wood that could potentially crack. So your failure rate could be higher. So be mindful of that after you're axing. If you've got some beef down here that you want to be able to carve away, maybe leave it just for then and then go ahead and establish your bowl. That way you've got the strength. Then once the bowl's done, then you can go back to this and shape the remainder of the handle out and start doing all of the finite work as well. So anyway, what we do is we're going to start to attack this bowl next. That's usually what I do. So I've gone ahead, I've axed it out, and now I've ran my knife along the sides that I want to, establish the bowl basically how I want it, and now I'm going to hit the bowl. So next angle. So this is kind of what I mean. If you're going ahead and you're using like a spoon mule or a shave horse or whatever, a spoon mule, sorry, and then you go ahead and you lock it down, this guy's going to need a bit of a spacer if I was to do something really heavy duty, but I can just winch it down, and there it is. Once you start to actually do cross grain cuts here to get the rod of the material out, you're going to start to put stress on the wood itself, essentially in this area, and snap at one point or another. So you'd have to do straight grain cuts with following the grain itself, or go by hand and start doing hand grips and things like that. For me, I try to remove the majority of the material using a gouge. This is just any old gouge. Typically you'd want to be using a bent gouge. I don't own a bent gouge. I've been trying to get my hands on a couple for a while, but I haven't been able to get it. This is more of a straight gouge or mallet gouge by Flex Cut. And again, all I'm doing is going cross cuts like this in order to get what I'm looking for and hollow the bowl out. So one more tip is, when do you establish the outer rim of the bowl? Do you want to establish it now or later? The answer is, that's up to you. You could do it now, later, or both. It all depends on how much material that you're going to be leaving yourself. So if you've left a little bit of thickness in the bowl and the rim itself, well then you have room to play around. If you haven't and it's quite thin because you're trying to make it easy on yourself with your knives, well you've only got so much room to play, so you have to kind of subjectively look at what you're doing and then just dial in a little bit further as to what your needs are, what's going on with that spoon itself. So anyway, for me right now, I think, because I'm usually a guy that does it near the end, establish my rim, but I think for this guy I'm going to establish it just right now. And that way you can also see what the bowl looks like a little bit further. Because believe it or not, the lines the drawing of the spoon itself can actually mask what it looks like, and especially when you're seeing a lot of, you know, the symmetrical stuff and the measurements. Well, the more you sort of look at those lines, they kind of throw you off as the actual spoon, just because you got to see the spoon clean without those lines, so you can start to look at things by eye a little bit more to be able to carve a little cleaner. But for now, if you know the ways, I'm going to be carving this way down the grain, and then I'm going to be carving a little bit this way, and then kind of around like that. But it's just to establish just kind of where the bowl is. And you're also removing any kind of crank line or anything like that that you've done while you're axing. It's okay to take a little bit more too, because again, you've got a little bit of extra beef that you've left yourself. And I can already tell I'm gonna have to work the bowl a little bit just for symmetry purposes. I think that's okay. Most people are like, oh my god, you're carving into yourself. Yeah, but I'm not jacking it into myself. I'm using precision and only doing so much. So I've gotten rid of the crank line as well too. So there it is, more or less. And you can be a bit more aggressive if you want to as well too, but it's up to you. Again, it all depends on the spoon that you're carving and what you're doing. I'm gonna just take that down real quick just to let myself know where everything is lying. So there you go. Now I've established my rim. It's not perfect, and I will go over it again. But for now, this is kind of giving me my guideline as to where I want to be carving the bowl out completely onto the bowl. All right, so I've clamped it down now, and again, I can't find my wedges, so I just used some wood chips off the floor here. I've rested them down inside and clamped it, so that way it's now pretty stable and it's not going to wobble. It is resting. Now it's resting down on this little rest here, so it doesn't go anywhere. It's got a little bit of play, but I'm just going to take it easy. So I've established the rim itself. I'm just going to take it easy and do some cross grain cuts here, and then eventually you're going to see me start to come down a little bit as well too. It's just establishing how I want the bowl to go. So here we go, a little gouge action. I usually start in the middle. Kind of get rid of that crank line and see where you're going with it. You know, what does the grain looks like underneath there? And then work this first before you do really many other things to the bowl. That way you know this is now gone. You can start coming this way, you can go back down this way, you can look at the grains a bit better. You know, it just gives you more, I'd say, of a better look into the spoon bowl without wasting cuts or making the wrong cuts or taking too much material off of some area that you shouldn't have, or too little, or too much, whatever. Just talking smack. So you can see the neck starting to bend a little bit as well too, so that's why I'm just trying to take it easy. You know, you don't want to push too hard. Luckily this guy's pretty sharp. Going a little bit deeper in the back end here just because it just makes it easier later on once you pull out the remainder of the other tools. Why I'm doing that and now coming down this way is because if I continue to keep on jacking that over and over again, and this is not a bent gouge, you're actually going to start to chip the edge off. So you keep going and going, and then eventually it just snaps and then it'll break because you're just pushing the actual fibers away from itself. So I'd rather come down now, so I'll go most of the way, get rid of a lot of the material, and I'm going to circle down now and go this way. That way I can just come back to this point, which is a lot thicker, more stable. Now, you don't have to do it that way. You can do it other ways as well too, but just this little bit takes off enough material that I feel good without putting too much wear into the spoon already with my cuts. And yeah, looking good. Now we've got a majority of the material out. Now this is the proper way the grain runs. So going this way just sort of flattens it out a little bit, in my opinion anyway. Gives it a bit more of a finish. And then again, once you start using your hook knives on it as well too, it's kind of already established. So you're not killing your hands. A lot of this might not be too traditional when it comes to what you're doing spoon carving. You know, a lot of it is. But at the same time, it's modified for myself because I have burned out certain elbows or my elbows and ligaments, and it really hurts after a while. And it doesn't go away overnight. It takes months to kind of go away. So to try to heal and relax and all that kind of stuff. So I've always just tried to be creative as to how I carve to make it as easy as I can on my joints and my body, because I'm not going anywhere when it comes to carving. I really enjoy it, and I hope to carry it on in my life. If I destroy my body now, well, I'm going to have a pretty bleak future when it comes to spoon carving. So this is why I kind of modify things to what I want. So that's basically it. I'm just messing around now because I'm talking. Really hope the camera angle's good. That's good enough. Good enough for me. Good enough for my people. Now, this isn't finished. This is just established. And this is the part that I go to right after I finish axing out a spoon blank. So that's it. So what you're going to do from this point now is you're going to be able to take the actual hook and start to hook in here and basically establish the remainder of the bowl, and make sure that you make it nice and smooth and finished. And then you're going to round it again, establishing the edge with potentially a sharper knife or the sharpest knife that you have. But that'll be right at the very end. So you can go a little bit deeper. I've left some meat here if I want to make it more serving spoon style, or if I want to just leave it shallow and keep it cooking. I just thought to myself this guy would be more of a cooking spoon than anything. So, but anyway, that's basically it. Next video, I will show you what to do by hand with a hook knife. Subscribe, comment, leave a thumbs up down on the bottom there. Thank you so much for showing up. See you in the next one.